Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakthroughs with Bree. On this podcast, we are discussing all of the topics that help us have breakthroughs on our personal and spiritual development journeys. My name is Bree, otherwise known as Healing with Bree, and I'm a channeler, energy healer, tarot reader, astrologer, and soul alignment coach. My mission in my work and in this podcast is to help teach people how to shift their consciousness, how to heal, and how to release beliefs and patterns and fears of their ego mind so that they can step into alignment with their soul to live lives of abundance, purpose, and bliss. In these episodes, I will be sharing either through my own lens and my own channel or through the experiences of my guest, wisdom and expertise about healing, spirituality, psychology, personal growth, holistic wellness, mysticism, consciousness, and so much more. My hope is that these conversations help you feel seen and provide support and inspiration for you with your own personal breakthroughs. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Breakthroughs with Bree. I have a very exciting episode for you today. Today, we're going to talk all about perfectionist, control, and hustle energy. This is something that I am very intimately familiar with. I definitely came from a background of being like the high performer, the do-it-all kid in school, the people pleaser that really set me up in adulthood, especially in my career before doing this for my business, to really subscribing to hustle culture and really struggling with perfectionism, which is really also a version of sort of control issues, right? And that didn't ever feel like it was the most authentic version of me, but it was really something that I always found myself reverting back to, especially when I felt a little bit stressed. And it took me a minute to really unravel that and to find a new way of interacting with myself in my life that got me even better results and that actually made me feel a lot better in the process of living it out and getting to where I wanted to go. And I want to share all of that with you today. So, on our episode today, I want to sort of peel back the curtain on what control issues or perfectionism or hustle culture really is. I feel like it's really fascinating when we can understand sort of like the root of what these things are and what they are really coming from and what they really reflect. We can work with them a lot better when we understand what they are and why they are. And I want to share a lot of my knowledge that I've accumulated from really having to work through this myself about what those are really about. And then I want to talk a little bit about what has created the biggest shifts for me in moving towards a place where I could release the hustle, I could release the urgency, I could release the perfectionism and the control and still feel safe, if not feel more safe. And I could still feel at peace. And really, I could still get a lot done and actually get a lot more done because I know for me, one of my stories was one of the stories my mind was telling me was that I had to use these strategies of perfectionism and hustle and go, go, go in order to get the things done that were important to me. And if I didn't use those things, I wouldn't get them done. And it was so important to me to get them done that I was like, well, I guess I got to do it this way. And I got to tell you, putting that down and trying something else really debunked that story my mind was telling me. And I realized there's a way to get things done more effectively that actually feels a lot more peaceful and a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable. And I want to tell you all about that today. Just a quick reminder before we get into the episode, I am doing the Master Your Triggers workshop on Monday, February 19th, and this episode comes out in the afternoon at 3:30 p.m. PST. You can sign up for this free workshop at any time up until it starts. So if you haven't signed up to register for this free workshop where I'm teaching you how to tap into the flows of your triggers, how to extract the wisdom that they're trying to teach you, the information they're trying to teach you about where you need some healing so that you can find more freedom and peace in your life, please sign up for that. I'm going to be sharing a lot of really good information. I really feel like this is something that is not commonly taught in our society, how to work with our triggers and how they really are trying to support us. And I'm really excited to share some of that information with you. So check out the link in my bio, my link tree link, and the registration for that will be there. Again, it's a free workshop. Come have some fun. And just a reminder that that is this afternoon, February 19th, 3:30 p.m. PST. I'm going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back. We're going to get into all the good stuff. All right, everybody, let's get into this. Okay. I want to paint a story for you of what past Brie was living like, and you guys may identify with this. Okay. Again, I grew up in a situation where it felt like when I did what other people needed of me, when I did what other people expected of me, that's when things were easiest for me. That's when I was safe. I wouldn't have called it that at the time, but when we're young and especially when we're kids, everything has to do with our safety in terms of the approval and the reaction that we get from other people. So I grow up really feeling like, okay, like I've been given a very strict, like, do this, this, and this. And when I do that, I'm in the green, I'm good. And if I don't do that, then things could be really bad. So there started the process of developing this muscle of one, becoming very acutely aware of what other people expected of me, and then driving so hard at making sure that happened. And whenever that didn't happen, then queued up a lot of the ways that our ego mind kind of reinforces those things, like a really, really strong and nasty inner critic, or a lot of shame and guilt, which is really another version of the inner critic as well. And it just would be like this whole tornado that would be driving me back towards hustle, do more, get more done, do it better, do it perfect, like all of that kind of energy. That was my go-to for a long time. I didn't quite see it as that, but it was. That's why I really want to share with you all what I've learned about what that energy really is, and how it wasn't helping me the way that I thought it was, and how I was able to shift into a different energy that felt like it was more soul aligned and felt a lot more pleasant to live in. It felt a lot easier, felt a lot more peaceful. I felt like I had a lot more freedom available to me once I learned how to put those things down. But first, let's pull that back the curtain on what this hustle and control and perfectionist energy really is. Okay. One of the telltale signs was my relationship with my job, with my work. I worked in corporate sales for a long time, and I had a lot of anxiety about work. And I also had a really hard time with work-life boundaries. And that wasn't only like working in time that was technically personal time, that was also me like ruminating on and stressing out about and talking about work a lot in personal time where I wasn't getting paid to be using my energy on work, right? It was a lot of like, well, I just have to get everything done, and oh, I have to do exactly what they want, or I have to go above and beyond, and I didn't do that well enough, and what's that going to mean? And it was a lot of stress in a way that I didn't know how to again like put down, right? And just in general, my experience coming into the day, I was so anxious, really. Like there was like an undercurrent of anxiety underneath it, even if some days were better days and some days I felt maybe a little bit more confident about what was going on. Like the general situation was that I would come in like kind of bracing myself and stepping into that. Okay, I have to anticipate what people want. I have to show that I've got it, that I understand it, that I can take care of it. And then I have to perform like above and beyond. Like that was like the energy that I stepped into whenever I came into work. Looking back, that was a big sign that I was in that sort of hustle perfectionist energy. And I'm going to talk more about what that is really about in a second. Another signal for me was that I was exhausted all the freaking time. I was exhausted. I maybe had like actual energy, like for like one small window, maybe at like the beginning of my day or something. But otherwise, I was tired all of the time. I didn't feel like I had energy for anything when I finished my work day. Like all I wanted to do was dissolve on the couch, maybe have a glass of wine. That was a coping mechanism that was like one of the best that I had at the time, So like no shame to her. And to her, I say pass Brie for using that strategy because that's what worked well. And I was exhausted. And then I felt really frustrated when the time came when I had a lot of inspiration about creating this business or doing other kind of work, which would have required me to use my personal time to either start studying up or start working in hours outside of like the corporate job. Right. I felt really frustrated when I didn't feel like I had energy or motivation to apply to what I really wanted to do because it felt like my energy was totally zapped up by that job, right? And again, that is another indication to me that I was really in this go, go, go hustle energy. Like everything has to get done or else. because it was completely zapping all of my energy in a way that kind of didn't feel proportional, but also did. But just in general, the feeling of feeling like I was drained all the time was definitely a symptom of this looking back. Another thing is that I felt tense a lot, and in times that I didn't necessarily need to. I definitely would have times where I would like snap at my boyfriend and husband, or like snap at my family, or snap at my friends, because I just felt tense, especially when things started like to not go according to plan, or when people like weren't understanding what I was trying to say and like coming along with it, like getting it, it would start to trigger that part of me, the control, the perfection, like, no, 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 come on, like we gotta, you know. And it was crazy because there was a voice inside of me that was like, this is not really how I feel, this is not really who I am, and I don't really like this version of me that gets like frustrated with people so easy, or snaps at people so much. Like I don't really like that about myself. That doesn't really feel like me, but I don't know how to not be her. And I don't know how to make that stop necessarily because it felt so like compulsive almost, you know? The other, looking back, another telltale sign of all of this too was the wear and tear that it was having on my health. I started to gain weight and had a hard time losing it. I, again, felt so much fatigue, was having a hard time sleeping, was experiencing a lot of anxiety, was experiencing physical pain. I had a lot of lower back and hip pain, and then sometimes in like my neck and shoulder pain too. And also like some body image issues. Like it was really manifesting in a health way for me. I was having some like digestional stuff issues as well, like bloating or cramping or like just unease. And the stress of all of that was absolutely manifesting in my physical health, 100%, especially in some of those like chronic pain or chronic illness stuff, 100%. So that was a little bit of the story of some of what that looked like for me to be in that energy. And this is what I learned about it all. I learned that all of that was a signal that I was living based on fear. And again, I wouldn't have called it that at the time. I would have been like, no, I'm not like in a constant state of fear. Like I'm just living my life. I'm doing what I got to do. But that's really what it was. There would be a lot of little things that would sort of trigger that part of me to feel like, oh, like something's going to make us unsafe right now. There's the possibility of something unsafe or that would threaten, you know, my survivability or my goodness or whatever it would be. Like that is imminent. So you have to go into managing the things that are going on to avoid that thing that is unsafe. That is what I learned those things were. I've spent a lot of time learning more about this and working with clients and channeling about this. And here are some of the other things that I've really seen about these hustle, perfectionist, controlling, urgency kind of patterns. One, that in most cases, when you look at it, your self-worth is tied to your productivity. That you don't think that you are worthy or deserving of the things that you want and need, like money, safety, attention, connection, support, anything good, anything that feels important to you. You don't feel like you've earned it, which is kind of a funny thing for me now looking back at it after all the work I've done these years. But like you feel like you have to earn it, that you're not worthy of it just for being, just for like who you are. And you also feel like what you get is in proportion to how hard you work. That is like a big thing that's normalized in most human cultures. It's kind of a capitalist thing that, like, if you only work this many hours or this hard, you only get this much. And if you want more, you have to work harder. Spoiler alert, that's not actually true when you start to get into like the energetics of how this universe and how things actually work. But it makes total sense that we would believe that because that's what we're taught. And there's certain paradigms that sort of reinforce that, but that's not the only way to live. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. But anyway, self-worth is tied to productivity. This is why we become really addicted to stuff with our jobs and become really stressed about our jobs because our jobs become the place that we get validation that we are worthy. They're where we prove that we've done enough. They are where we prove that we're good enough. And therefore, they are the places that we go, "Ah, okay, I'm good enough right now so I can relax for a beat before I go into stressing that I need to do more so that I can feel good enough and I can feel like it's okay for me to rest." Right? A lot on self-worth that I can talk about. Again, you guys know that valuable and abundant, my self-worth program is something that is going to come out at some point, channeled in a lot of information about that. And basically, what I'll just say now is self-worth is the system that we use to try to understand when we can get our needs or wants met. And when we tie our self-worth to something like productivity, it's what we're doing for other people or go, 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 that in the back of our mind and our subconscious mind tells us if the things that we need and want we're going to be able to get. And those are really what we're oriented to as like a human species is our needs and our wants, right? So it would make sense that if that's the system we're using, that we're just like constantly going and we're never stopping, we're hustling all over the place. And the other thing too is that in that, especially that like work culture, the hustle part of it, we also are in a paradigm of scarcity, thinking that there's a scarcity of time, there's a scarcity of energy, that there's a scarcity of money, which drives us into things like we have to compete for stuff or we have to rush, we got to get it there before other people get it. Right? Like that we got to claim the resources for ourselves, especially if you're in, jobs or industries that kind of promote that sort of sense of competition, that it feels like not only do you have to do whatever this arbitrary amount of work is, whether it's time or, effort, but that you also have to do it quickly. You got to do it before everybody else because if you don't do it, then it's not going to get done. It's not going to be available. You're not going to get it. You know what I'm saying? Scarcity drives a lot of that competitive and urgency energy because it feels like it's not going to be available to you if you don't do it right now or right in that period of time that's, somebody or your mind has come up with. Another symptom of being in this place and what I've learned about it is that it creates a lot of all or nothing thinking. That if you don't do it all right now, then it will be a waste of time or it'll never get done. That's another symptom of it, right? I know a lot for me in the past, even like with doing tasks, and even if it wasn't not related to work, like if it was on a weekend and I knew that like, chores needed to get done around the house or errands or something, I would sort of like bully myself, especially in my own mind, into doing those tasks because I felt like if I didn't do them now, they were never going to get done. And one, that was a signal of a lot of trust that I did not have with myself. But also, it was kind of this like all or nothing thinking. I either got to do it all right now or it's not going to happen. There was no nuance, there was no middle ground. And that drove me into a greater state of stress and urgency. This also can happen with work. Of course, this can happen with relationships. But if you find yourself being in that mindset where you feel like it's either got to happen now or it's not going to happen at all, that's a signal that you're in like a dysregulated state. You're in a fear state because it's telling you that there's like the scarcity of this thing that needs to get done that for it to get done. Like right now is the only possibility that it will ever happen. And there's no other time, there's no other option, there's no other possibility that it can possibly happen for you if not right now, which is scarcity because there's not enough. There's a limited amount, right? Again, a lot to learn about the fact that that's not true. But if I just observed and I found both in myself and in other people, when we see all or nothing thinking come up, that is a signal that we are in a fear state. Because actually, when we're in a regulated state, we're in a soul-led place, we can see nuance, we can have a balanced way of looking at things, we can be open to possibilities of things happening in different ways. But when we're in this control and urgency and hustle and perfectionist kind of energy, we can access that kind of way of looking at things, and it continues to fuel that pattern that is literally running us into the ground. And I'll just say too, for the all or nothing, one of the fears that I was able to realize was that one, it was like, okay, maybe it wouldn't get done, right? Whatever the thing was, or the task or whatever. But also, what was underneath that, and some of the work that I did with my own triggers and my own fears, is that I was afraid that if it didn't get done, something bad would happen. And the bad thing that might happen is that either I wouldn't get the things that I needed, money, resources, like basic needs met, right? Or that in relationships or in connections with people, that would be the thing that would cause me to get rejected. Maybe it's like fired at a job, or it's, a friend that would get upset with me, or a family member that would get upset with me. And the separation from people that are important to us is a form of us not getting a core need met, and AKA creates unsafety and risks our survivability when we're looking at it through the lens of our brain, right? Of our ego mind, our human mind, which its whole function is to look at survivability when it's running the show, right? So I just wanted to build that connection with sometimes it's not even just about what we're going to get in a material way, which of course can affect our ability to feel safe, but it can also be the availability and the connection with people that we find important to us, which is also connected to our sense of safety, our sense of being connected to our tribe. The other thing about control energy specifically is that I find that this coping mechanism is all about avoiding the things that we're afraid of happening. And we think that we can avoid and make those things not happen if we could just control every little detail to like keep us away from the bad stuff. I just was on a podcast with somebody and she's talking about how her husband has a lot of anxiety about travel and planning things ahead of time, and that really his intention behind doing that is that he gets anxiety, right? And I think that that's such like a beautiful sort of example of when people are really in controlling energy. They might not be mindful of it, but really what's happening is that they're terrified of what happens when things don't go according to their plan. And the whole point of having the plan and rigidly enforcing the plan is to prevent the undesirable from happening to them or anybody else involved. Which again shows me it's a fear response, right? You're living in fear of what happens if it's not how my brain has planned it, right? You're managing to danger, you're managing to things that are unsafe. And that also tells me that there's probably an inability to soothe yourself or to withstand discomfort, to withstand when things go wrong, and to create safety in situations when things go not according to plan, right? Because if you could learn how to feel safe in those situations, you probably wouldn't need to avoid them so much, right? So I can't in my body tolerate all of the feelings that come up when things go sideways. And therefore, my mind is helping me avoid those scenarios by being a control freak, essentially. And again, I am speaking from personal experience. I get it. I totally get it. And then the last couple things that I want to say about this is I've also observed, and this has been really wonderful to see even with some of my clients, that when we're in this state, it can really be as intense as feeling like you're one decision away from ruin. Like you're one choice away from things falling apart. Like you're one choice and one bad thing away from things like completely being terrible for you or for your family or for the people that you are connected to, right? Especially if you're a parent, like your kids, your family. I just want to say that that is not true for 99% of people. Like your one choice isn't going to make everything fall apart irrevocably, like irrevocably. Yeah, that is just not true. It's not true for 99% of people. Okay. You are not one choice away from things completely falling to ruin without you ever being able to impact that from that choice on. Okay. But that is the kind of story that gets conditioned into us based on our past experiences and our traumas. And we might not even realize that that's the way that we're thinking about things. When we have such intense anxiety that like one thing could happen, or we could make one kind of choice, or, maybe make a mistake on one project or in one situation, and gosh, that's going to be it. Everything is going to be terrible. We're really living in that kind of thinking about the world. We're really living in that belief system that things could fall apart that quickly. And therefore, we have to be so rigid and so tense that we have to avoid ever making a mistake on everything, on anything. We have to avoid anything ever going sideways. We have to go, 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 go always, because when things start to fall apart is when we stop. When we're not worthy and we're therefore not going to get our needs met is when we stop, right? That's the kind of thinking and mentality that's behind a lot of these thought processes, because ultimately these are all rooted in fear, aka safety, or our brain actually thinking that we're going to be unsafe. Okay. And they're all like fear motivated strategies. Okay. If we think about a workflow, you could say, right? Like the start is the trigger. Something triggers the thought, oh, I'm not going to be safe. It's imminent that I might not be safe, that my survivability is threatened, right? And then your ego mind says, "Oh, we know what to do to help keep us safe." We turn into a control freak. Or, "Oh, I know what to do to keep us safe. We'll just start hustling harder. That's going to keep us safe." Or, "Oh, I know what to do when, I get triggered and the concept of fear comes up. I'm going to go into a people pleaser mode and make sure nobody's ever upset with me. Or I'm going to pull on my full perfectionist cape and I'm going to like critically think and stress about every single little detail and every single thing that could go wrong. And I'm going to drain all of my energy into that because that's what's going to keep me safe. Those things are just strategies that our mind uses to cope with these fears and these beliefs that we have in the back of our brain. Now, this is what I got to say about all of this, and this is what I learned, is that one, your body is not going to be able to withstand that kind of stress over prolonged periods of time without some serious impacts to your health. Talk about adrenal fatigue, talk about, again, chronic illness and chronic pain. Like all of those are a result of your body trying to stay in that adrenalized, dysregulated state to support you, but it's not made to do that and it's not healthy for you. So your body and your health will start to break down if it's not already. I find that you get close to 30 years old, and if you've been in that state consistently, things start to break down. Your body might try and take you farther, and you might, not listen to some of those symptoms and keep going, but the intensity to which you start to have health problems grows in proportion to how long you keep trying to use those strategies. And that's just the truth of it, right? The other thing that I find is that your soul tries speaking to you then, because that kind of living is living from your ego mind. Your ego mind is running the show. It's driving the ship. Okay. Your soul will be trying to speak louder all of the time. Your guides and angels will be trying to get to you all of the time. It'll be through dreams and inspirations and synchronicities and gut feelings. Like those are also going to get louder and louder and louder because your soul is trying to be like, hey, I'm here. I'm here. There's another way we can do it. I can show you a new way. Like, this isn't what you're meant for. This isn't the life that you're meant to live, one of fear and of stress and anxiety and control and urgency and hustle. Like, that's not what you're here for. I'm here. I'm your soul right here. You can listen to me. I have a different way to show you, right? And this is beautiful. I think it's a beautiful way that this all comes together because ultimately those things that your soul are trying to show you, those things that you feel inspired by, those dreams that you have for your life, those dreams are like your North Star to living a life where you can actually feel all of the things that happen when you're aligned with your soul, right? When you are letting your soul lead as opposed to being a secondary, right? And that's and everything I just described, your ego mind's leading the show. When you let your soul lead the show, you are able then to tap into extraordinary abundance, living a life of purpose, living a life of bliss, feeling peace, feeling joy, feeling authenticity. All of those experiences, from what's been shown to me and what feels true, are things that happen when we're living from our soul place, from our heart place. But we have to learn how to tap into its guidance and how to live from a place of that leading the show. Okay. And I think what's so beautiful about these dreams and hopes and visions that we have for ourselves is they're like flashes of a life where we are living from a soul-led place. It's like getting a little sneak peek of what life could look like when we are living from the soul place and we've put down the ego mind-led place and we listen to our soul and let that guide us. Okay. Because I'll tell you what, if you're really trying to manifest a life that has more ease and has more flow and has more balance and love and abundance and all these things that are soul level desires, you're never going to get them when you're living from an ego mind driven place. You're just not. It's like trying to fly a plane the way that you drive a car. It's just not going to work. But here's the good news that I have to tell you is that there is nothing wrong with you and there's nothing that you're missing from being able to live that soul-led life that has all of the things that you want. Like there's nothing inherently faulty with you. There's nothing in you that you even need to fix. There's nothing inherently wrong with you. The only thing that I've found that makes a difference between the people that are still really living in this scarcity and ego mind driven place is that they just haven't learned how to live from the soul led place. They just haven't learned how. They haven't learned the strategies or the processes to be able to do all the day-to-day stuff in their life, still feel like they're safe, still feel like they're getting their needs met, and have it be a soul-led thing. They just have never seen an example of it. They've never been taught how. They haven't been taught how to put down the ego mind stuff and how to work through the fears, right? So that they can release that. You just don't know how. How would you know how to do something you've never been taught? I say this all the time, right? So, all of that to say, it really is just a matter of can you learn a new strategy for navigating your life, keeping yourself safe, getting all of your needs and wants met that's not a fear-based motivation system. And that, my friends, is why I created the Flow Master 6-week program, 6-week group coaching program. And it's all about teaching the people who choose to join how to live lives from their soul-led place, how to live lives that are intuitively guided so that you can live the lives of ease, things actually feeling easy, of peace, not feeling so stressed out all the time, and of freedom. Because really, when we're living in scarcity, we feel restricted all over the place. I can't do this, I can't do that because I have to do this, I have to do that. That's a lot of language that we're in, like that scarcity mindset. So, kind of the long story short in this is that learning how to live in flow with your intuitive guidance is the alternative to living from this fear-based place. Okay. Now, in this Flow Master program, I'm so excited to create a community of people who are all trying to do this work together. It's so beautiful to be able to witness everybody having their epiphanies and their shifts and how that all comes together. It's just this beautiful kind of synergetic experience. I'm really excited to lead and to create a space for with everybody. But in this program, over these 6 weeks, I will be teaching you how to release the hustle, perfectionist, and control energy and to live a life based on your intuitive flow, which will help you be more present and more effective in your life and will help you experience more ease, peace, and freedom. Because I'll tell you what, one of the things that my brain told me when I was like, oh, I like the idea of flow, but like maybe sometimes I'll be in flow and sometimes I'll just do what I do, you know? Really what that was is that I felt like if I was in flow, then that means that like nothing would ever get done. Because that was the only examples I'd ever seen was like people who were like, oh no, it's fine. Like, and maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. And like all you would see is like things fall apart or things not get done. And I will say that that example I feel like is the other extreme, right? Like if controlling energy is one end of the spectrum, another fear-based strategy is avoidance. And that's the other side of the spectrum. And some people have labeled that as being in flow. It's not being in flow, not the intuitively guided flow that I'm going to be teaching in this program. Both of those are fear-based. The one in the middle, or I guess maybe on a whole different spectrum altogether, is about letting your intuition guide you in any given moment towards the things that you want. And when you let your intuition guide you, you're getting there faster. You're having a much better time when you get there too. So you're still getting everything that you want, but your experience is going to be entirely different and it's going to be really fucking magical. I just got to say too. So if you hear that and you're like, oh, but like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do the flow thing. Like, I got a lot of stuff I'm trying to get done. I'm telling you, I came from that same energy and I am able to be much more effective for the things that I want now that I really understand the different components of it and I feel a lot better. So I encourage you to consider learning what this would look like in the form of this program. Now, for my friends here listening on the podcast, I will give you some little goodies about what that really means to live in flow because I still want you to be able to leave this podcast thinking about some things and being able to try out some things. But ultimately, if you want to learn not only the information about what that looks like, but actually get tools and practices that will help you implement it. And then, of course, have the community with everybody. There's going to be group messaging throughout it. And then we're also going to have weekly coaching calls, group coaching calls together. If you want all of that kind of support to really understand it in depth and make it happen, I really invite you to join the program. It's going to be so much fun. But in the meantime, here's a little bit of information about what that would really look like to live in flow as opposed to living from like a fear-based place to fear-based motivation place that's stressing you the freak out, it's draining your body, and it's creating resistance between you and the things that you want. Because that's what's happening right now. I promise you, I've been there, I've seen it many, many times. But here's what it could be. One of the really fun side effects of when you're living an intuitive flow is that you become a super magnet for your manifestations. If you're trying to really deepen into your ability to manifest, learning how to master your flow is going to magnify your ability to manifest like a million percent. I promise. And the other thing that's really nice too is that if you are somebody that identifies with having intuitive or psychic gifts, you learning how to put down some of that scarcity and fear conditioning and how to let things happen and be and flow in your life and follow your guidance and all like that is going to open up your intuitive and psychic channel. And it's going to strengthen your intuitive gifts and strengthen your intuitive channel because the whole system of living in flow requires you to be connected to your intuition. So those are some really fun sort of side effects about it. In the program, I am teaching my flow formula. Yes, I channeled through like a legitimate formula that has different components that you can check in on. Okay, how am I feeling here? How am I feeling on this one to figure out which one is causing the issues and throwing you out of flow? And then there's going to be tools associated with each to get back and recalibrate to flow energy. So there's going to be all of that in the program that you get. But here are some of the things that you've got to learn to do to be able to start being in an intuitively flow-led place as opposed to being in like a fear motivated and a fear-based place in your life. One, you've got to learn how to cope with and withstand discomfort in a way that feels safe. You have to learn how to create safety in your body. This 100% is going to be tied to realigning those beliefs about what your self-worth is tied to and what your safety is tied to. Because if you think you're only ever safe if you hustle, like, of course, those are the only situations that are going to make you feel safe. In the program, I am going to teach you how you can start shifting those beliefs, but I'm just offering to you that you being able to create a sense of safety, even in the things that feel threatening, I say in quotes, is going to be imperative. You got to learn how to cope first with the discomfort of when you get a little bit triggered in order to move in and do any of this other work and really any other healing work. That's always going to be step one. Step two, another thing that you've really got to learn is you've got to reckon with the level of trust that you have in the universe and really the level of trust that you have with yourself. Like, do you really believe that the universe is setting up something bad to happen to you? If you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be scared of bad things happening. The fact that you're scared of bad things happening tells me that there is a part of you that really doesn't trust the universe to support you in any way, and that you really don't trust yourself to also keep yourself safe and to meet your own needs. So there's definitely a deepening and a reckoning with the level of trust that has to happen to come into a really deep state of flow, which is beautiful because that's an important thing to have. But that's one place we really got to learn a lot. Another thing is that you really got to evaluate what you're doing and spending your energy on and why. There's a little bit of like a values realignment, sometimes like a value switching that has to happen, especially if you're wanting to be in better flow towards manifestations or towards a certain quality of life that you want to have. Your ability to prioritize what's important and identify what you really want and identify what you really need is going to be really important so that you can ensure that your needs still get met. You're creating a sense of safety and that you're creating the quality of life that you want. There's a lot of people that don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want, right? I'm going to surprise, what that is that you're in the fear state. You're so stressed out about claiming something you want or not getting it that you're not even letting yourself identify it. We go a little bit into that in Flow Master. You're also going to need to deepen into what your desires are, into what your body feels like, and therefore what your intuition is trying to tell you. There is going to be that sort of intuition development that needs to happen because your intuition becomes what's steering the ship. It becomes the guiding horse, so to speak, right? So deepening into that channel a little bit so that you can start actually tuning into and receiving what it's trying to tell you and then, play around with letting that and play around with that leading the way. Yeah. And then the last piece of this is that you've really got to learn how to relate to your current circumstances in a different way so that you're not creating more resistance and more struggle and more anguish in your experience. Us raging against things that go wrong. I say go wrong in quotes, right? Or us raging against parts of our current circumstances or being upset and angry or wishing it was different and trying to control and force them to be different. That doesn't help us. That does not help us be in flow. One of the images or sort of metaphors I like to think about is if you think about water, like in a stream running down a mountain, you've seen them how the streams kind of fork out into all these different paths of that the water gets down to the bottom of the hill, right? If you are on like one of those little tubes floating down the river, okay? The river is your life. And if you're flowing down, every time that you are resisting and you're raging against and you're mad that something's happened in a certain way and you're trying to force something, you're essentially like grabbing a tree branch on the side of the stream and holding on to it and preventing your ability to keep flowing down the river. And what's down at the bottom is your destination, is your manifestations, is the quality of life that you want, right? And the flow is the universe, is different options, it's different paths, right? You're holding onto a tree bench and you're literally preventing your own progress. Okay. And the water's probably splashing up on you and you're like, why is this happening? It's because you reached out and grabbed the branch. All right. When you let go of the branch, you have the opportunity to flow with life. Another thing that we can do though is that we can insist that things need to happen one way and not another. Because again, we don't feel like other ways are safe and we're not open to them, right? And we can be like forcing and again, maybe grabbing things on the side and trying to make ourselves go down one fork because we're so set and forcing it to where it has to happen that way. But really, the universe is trying to let the water flow us into a different fork. It's trying to flow us into a different little stream down the mountain, right? That stream is going to get you to where you want faster. It is. The only reason the universe would flow you there is because there's something juicy, there's something important there for you, and that it's bringing you to the desires that you want. But you forcing things and you resisting things is either stopping your progress altogether or it's taking you down paths that are going to take you longer to get to what you want. Yeah. So relating to your current circumstances in a way to where you're able to tune into where the water's trying to flow you to and to where you're not resisting and forcing other things to happen, again, is going to help you not only have an experience, it's going to be a lot more pleasurable and enjoyable and peaceful, but it's actually going to help you feel like you're getting to what you're getting to a lot faster. Overall, for all of the reasons that we've talked about, it's going to support the kind of life that you want more. So anyway, we're going to be learning how to do all these things in Flowmaster together. I'm so excited. Go to the link in the show description for my link tree to click into the program. The early bird pricing is going to be available this week, and we're starting in March. We're starting in Pisces season. We're ending in Aries season, which has got a lot of really cool synchronicities to it. But yes, the early bird pricing is going to be available this week. So please make sure that you're on the wait list for Flowmaster if you haven't already signed up. If that's what's available on the link tree by the time you listen to this episode, sign up for the wait list. You're going to be the first to hear about the early bird, and the only early bird pricing is only going to the people that are on the email list, right? Then there's going to be more standard pricing and other kinds of things that are going on my website once it's actually live. And all of that kind of stuff is going to be on healingwithbrie.net, but you're also going to be able to find it on that Linktree link that is in my show description. So I'm really excited. Let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, it's going to be a 6-week program. There's going to be online modules. There's going to be tools and practices that you can go back to and use again and again to help integrate those things. There's going to be weekly group coaching via Zoom. And then there's also going to be group messaging throughout, which is another form of coaching you're going to be able to get throughout it. So you're going to get 6 weeks of coaching with me for a price that is very similar to doing one session with me because again, I'm piloting it, we're having fun with this. So I really, really encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity to get some one-on-one work and really bust through and change and shift your consciousness about a lot of these fear-based ways of living so that you can step into that intuitively led, that soul-aligned life where you feel a deeper sense of peace and flow and connection with your intuition and channel and feeling like things are easy and you are tapped into freedom, the power you have to choose your life. Because really, when we're in flow, you're going to find yourself again having a lot more capacity and motivation for the things that you really want to do. It wasn't until I started applying this sort of formula and way of living that I had the energy to start doing the things that led to me opening Healing with Bree and led to me leaving my corporate job and doing this full time. Like I didn't have the capacity to do that. I didn't have the motivation and I didn't really have the clarity on that until I started implementing these things. So you will find all of that as a symptom of you getting into flow. You're going to be a lot more effective at the stuff that you're going to get done. I know that's kind of paradoxical, but it is a thing. You're going to have more presence and capacity for the people you love. You're not going to be snapping so much. You're not going to be stuck in your head stressed as much. You're going to be able to be present. I know that this is something that's really impactful to parents. You want to be able to just be present with your kids and not be so stressed out about all the stuff you got to do. You're going to be able to open and strengthen your intuitive channel. You're going to be creating healing in your body for chronic pain and chronic illness by learning how to release this constant stress fear place and start to listen to your body. And then again, you're going to have clarity on the stuff that you need, and you're going to make a lot more progress on your goals and your manifestations. You're going to become a super magnet for them when you allow yourself to flow. So, I hope that this was helpful for you to understand a little bit more about where that hustle energy is coming from, where that perfectionist energy is coming from, where that control energy is coming from, to understand what's motivating all of that, and that there is a different way that you can live. There's a different way that you can go about your day-to-day life. There's a different way that you can experience any present moment that you're in, where you still are getting what you want done, you're still getting your needs met, but you're also leaving it open for the universe to come in and have some divine intervention, to bring in miracles, to guide you to unexpected places and spaces that are really the fastest portal to the manifestations that you want, where you can allow magic to happen in because you're not vice gripping things and forcing them to be ways that they don't have to be. Where you can feel a deeper sense of trust, you can feel a deeper sense of peace and freedom in your life. And I would be happy to teach you about that in Flowmaster. So please check that out. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will be excited to see you next week for more breakthroughs. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode and for tuning in to Breakthroughs with Bree. Please share your favorite episodes with your friends and loved ones, and please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it, as it helps me continue to create these episodes to help support your breakthroughs. I would love to stay connected with you, so please follow me on social media at Healing with Bree. Please check out my website at healingwithbree.net, which will always have the most up-to-date information about the services that I'm currently offering. And please consider using the link in the show descriptions to subscribe to my email list so you can be the first to hear about any offerings. You can get all of the free resources that I offer, as well as get my weekly channeled messages. My deepest love and gratitude to you, and I can't wait to have more breakthroughs with you next week.